All right, 0.5, multiplying and dividing fractions. Students will be able to solve problems, word problems that involve multiplying and dividing fractions. Okay, before we get on to word problems, let's go practice some of the basic math involved with multiplying and dividing fractions. A lot of times people get confused between multiplying and dividing and adding and subtracting. These are two different fields of mathematics. And so let's just keep multiplying and dividing. Keep those rules with multiplying and dividing, right? So there's a little bit different rules for either one. So multiplying and dividing fractions is actually really easy because basically when you're multiplying a fraction, you're really just multiplying straight across. So this is the same thing as saying 2 times 21 over 7 times 6. It's the exact same thing. And since it is, we can actually look at this and see if there's any factors on the numerator that we could cancel out with factors on the bottom or reduce out. So right away I see a 2 and a 6. So I see that I could pull a 2 out of there and be left with a 1. If I pull a 2 out of 6, I'd be left with a 3. Okay, is there anything else that cancels out? Well, yeah, there is actually. There's a 21 and a 7. 7 goes into both of these numbers, so I can cancel those out. If I take a 7 out of 21, I'm left with a 3. If I take a 7 out of 7, I'm left with a 1. All right, well, check this out. Look, 3 divided by 3, well, or we could just kind of see real quick, right? Isn't this a 3 and a 3 on top and a 3 on bottom? This is really like saying a 1 times 3 and a 1 times 3. So that's just like saying 3 over 3, or they can cancel out, be 1 over 1, which is just 1. Okay, now I just wanted to show you that how we can use factors to kind of simplify it out and cancel it down. So this whole thing is just equal to 1. But that's because we could also, instead of just canceling it out, we could have done this. What's 2 times 21? Or instead of canceling out, let's just go from here with the 2 times 21. Well, 2 times 21 is 42. And 7 times 6 is also 42. And 42 divided by 42, well, hey, look, that's 1. So when we're multiplying fractions, we just multiply straight across. That's all there is to it. The fraction bar really just means divide, and that's what lets you kind of cancel out some factors if they're there. This one's nice because the whole thing just cancels down to 1. But let's play with another one. All right, here now we're dividing. And the only thing that you have to remember when dividing fractions is that it's the same thing as just multiplying by the reciprocal. So this is actually equivalent to 15 over 75 times, instead of divide now, we'll say times, and we'll multiply by the reciprocal. Whatever we were dividing by, now we just flip. Reciprocal just means that you flip 5 times 3. And so, again, there's two ways we can do this. We can multiply straight across and then reduce, or we can reduce first. I think that we should reduce first here because I see some values here that might be really easy to reduce out. For example, I think we could take a 5 out of both 15 and 75. Actually, we could take a 15 out of both of these. 15 goes into 15 and it goes into 75. So let's do that. 15 divided by 15 is 1. And 75 divided by 15 is 5. So now we really have 1/5 times 5/3. Well, we can also reduce out these 5s. And so now, if I was to rewrite this, this is like saying 1 times 1 over 1 times 3. Again, obviously we don't need to put in all those 1s. This is just 1/3. There's our answer. So really, multiplying, dividing fractions, really simple process. Now, sometimes you get things like this and it looks super confusing. It's like, oh, what's going on here? Well, remember, this just means divide. So in essence, this is the same thing as saying this, 1/4 divided by 1/8. And again, this little division symbol is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. So we could say that this whole thing just equals, or is the same thing as, 1/4 times, and let's just flip whatever we're dividing by. So now it's 8 over 1. Do we see anything that reduces out? Well, we have an 8 and a 4. Obviously, we could take a 4 out of both of those. We'd be left with a 2 and a 1. I don't need all these 1s here, right? 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 divided by 1 is 2. So the answer is just 2. So those are just some simple practices just to remind you the process of multiplying and dividing by fractions. Really pretty simple. When we get into adding and subtracting, we'll see that there's a much different process for conquering those types of problems. But multiplying, dividing, really simple, really easy. You just multiply straight across. Okay, so let's do some practice problems here. It says Elizabeth is painting frames. She has 5/6 of a gallon of paint left. Each chair takes 1/12 of a gallon of paint. How many frames can she paint? Okay, well, I'm going to do this the same way we did the units and problems in the last video. What do I want to know? I want to know how many frames. So I'm going to start with frames. Well, what do I know about frames? I know that it takes... I just realized there's a typo here, folks. That's not supposed to say chair. That should say frame. So go ahead and fix that on your notes. So I noticed that for one frame, because it says each frame takes 1/12 a gallon of paint. So I'm going to say one frame is 1/12 a gallon. And I also know that I happen to have 5/6 of a gallon. So I'm going to write 5/6 of a gallon. And there I get my units to cancel out. I'm left with frames. What do I really have here? Well, I have 5/6 on top divided by 1/12. Hey, look, this really isn't that hard of a problem because this is just like this problem here. It's a fraction divided by another fraction. So we could just flip and multiply by the reciprocal. So I can say, instead of divide by 1/12, I can say times by 12 over 1. So I'm just going to cross that thing off. When I times by 12 over 1, I notice that I can reduce out a 6 out of each of these numbers. It would leave me with a 2 and a 1. Well, what is 5 times 2? It's 10. And 1 times 1 is obviously 1. 10 divided by 1 is 10. So the answer is 10. And we should put in our unit, which is frames, right? Because I know that's the unit because that's the only thing that I have left. 10 frames. Okay, so we have a similar problem here. It says Mr. Rowe is riding his motorcycle up the California coast for 96 1/4 miles. After he begins, he notices that there are gas stations every 4 3/8 miles. How many gas stations are on this stretch of the highway? Now, you can do this problem very similar to how we did it here. However, I would just recommend that you convert these mixed numbers into improper fractions. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that with the 96 1/4. We're gonna write that as a mixed number. It's going to be a big, or we're going to write it as an improper fraction. It's going to be a big improper fraction, but it'll make it make the problem a lot more doable. So let's just go over here to the side. We have 96 1/4 miles. I'm going to remind you how to do this. Okay. To make this into one big improper fraction, it's not a hard process. Remember, you just take your denominator, multiply it by 96. Because we're saying we have 96 wholes, so if we want to break that into fractions of 4, we just do 4 times 96. So I'd recommend doing this on your calculator. 4 times 96 is 384. So 4 times 96 is 384. And then to write the improper, we just add 1. So really what I did here is I first changed this 96 as a fraction into a fraction of 4. So really 96 could be written as 384 over 4 plus 1/4. That's really what we're doing here. Well, 384 plus 1 is just 385. These things already have a common denominator, so this is 384 over 5. There's my improper fraction. Now, I know this is just review. This is stuff that you've done before, but I just want to remind you how to do that. The simple way of thinking of it is you take your denominator, you multiply it by 96. That's supposed to be a little x for multiplying. And then you add it to your numerator. So 4 times 96 plus 1 equals 385 over 4. That's how you write an improper fraction. So there's a reminder of how to write improper fractions. I would encourage you to try and set this problem up in the same way. Look at what I'm asking for. I'm asking for how many gas stations. Write gas stations first. Tell me something you know about gas stations as it relates to miles. And then tell me something else that you know about miles. And solve that out. I'll put the answer up in just a second. Okay, I worked this part way out, and I'm going to finish it out with you guys on the video here. So I said I want to know about gas stations. How many gas stations? So I put gas stations first. I asked, what do I know about gas stations? Well, I know that for every, you notice that there are gas stations every 4 3/8 miles. So I know that one gas station is every 4 3/8 miles. I converted that to an improper fraction, which is 35/8. That's why I have a 35/8 down here. What else do I know about miles? So I can get the miles unit to cancel out. Well, I know that I'm doing 96 1/4, which is 385 over 4th miles. My miles units cancel out, and I have a fraction divided by a fraction, which is the same thing as doing 385 times the reciprocal, which is 8 over 35. Now I'm ready to do some canceling here, so let's go for it. First thing I see is that I could take a 4 out of both of these. It leaves me with a 2 and a 1. And I have a feeling I could cancel out something here as well. I could definitely do 5s. So let's just go ahead and do that. 385 divided by 5 is 77. And 35 divided by 5 is 7. Well, I think I could keep going, right? Because there's a 7 inside 77, and there's 11 sevens, and there's 1 7 here. So let's go ahead and cancel these out. I get 11 and 1. So now I'm left with only 1s on the bottom. To write it out simply, this is like saying 11 times 2 over 1 times 1. So real simple, 11 times 2 is 22, and divided by 1 is still just 22. So 22 is our answer. 22 what? Well, the only unit we had left in our little chart here is gas stations. So forgive my handwriting there, but 22 gas stations should be the correct answer. All right, see you guys on the next video.